Our guest is an American author, columnist, screenwriter, and humorist. He is most famous for his novel, A Dog's Purpose, which spent 52 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. The 2010 book is the basis for the movie version, which I saw, starring Dennis Quaid, Josh Gad, and a whole bunch of other talented actors, and was released in theaters in 2017. A Dog's Purpose was followed by a sequel called The Dog's Journey, which was also adapted into a film of the same name. Welcome to the Motivation Show, W. Bruce Cameron.
Thanks for having me. That's great.
So I remember walking out of that theater with some goosebumps, and I'm going to admit it, I'm not too macho, but probably a little bit of tears came to my eyes during that film. It's a very emotional film.
Yeah, we like to say it gave a lot of men allergies. We could hear a lot of sniffling, and we knew we were making a lot of men have an allergic reaction.
Yeah, well, I'm a dog lover, and so you walk out of that film, and it's like, boy, that was like something else. How did you actually? What inspired you to write A Dog's Purpose? And did you have a gut feeling that this book would be this big?
Well, you hope every book that you write is going to be this big. I had moved out to California to work in television. I had a book called Eight Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter, and that became a TV show on ABC called Eight Simple Rules with John Ritter a long time ago. But that's what drew me out
Three's Company, John Ritter.
Yes, exactly. That's Three's Company, John Ritter. Great guy. That was his last show, was Eight Simple Rules. And I was single, and I had met this woman. Her name's Catherine, and she and I were driving up on a trip up the coast of California, which takes a year of your life because it's the 405. And while we were driving, she turns to me and she says, "I lost my dog, and I can never have another dog." Well, I thought, well, I'm going to have to let her out at the next gas station because there's no way in the world I'm going to go through life with a woman who won't let me have a dog. When I want to make a point, I tell a story, just like I'm doing right now. I tell a story, and I told her a story to try to convince her that the same love that she had from her original dog was still there if she'd open her heart to a new dog. It might even be her original dog come back to her. And I told her the story about a reincarnating dog who remembers each life, keeps being reborn, and eventually returns to his original boy. And she said, "Well, you have to write that as your next book." So I did. At the time I was writing humor books, it was just expected that I would continue to write humor. But I wrote A Dog's Purpose. Then people stopped saying, "What's your next book?" And they started saying, "So what's your next dog book?" And that's how I became the dog book guy. And I've published 39 books, and about 35 of them have a dog on the cover.
How many dogs have you had?
Oh, my whole life I grew up with dogs. We had a pack. We had 3 children in the household I grew up in, and then 3 dogs. So we each knew who our replacement dog was. We point to that dog and say, "Yeah, if I go, that dog takes my place." So I've always had dogs, and currently we just lost our dog. So I'm between dogs, one might say.
Mm. So deep down in your heart, Bruce, you truly believe that dogs do come back and reincarnate?
I believe in rebirth. I
Rebirth.
believe in rebirth and being born again, and all different connotations of that. I'm also very intrigued by the question of where do we go at the end of this? What happens next? Is there a next? And I spend a lot of time probing that very question. And A Dog's Purpose was the first time I did that with a dog who was literally born again, and goes on through each life to learn lessons. So that was the beginning of all that. I tend to think in that direction. I tend to think spiritually and look for bigger meaning in life than just what's for dinner.
Well, the character that you had in your book, in your movie, Bailey, was just the one of a kind. And, you know, my show is called The Motivation Show. So I'm looking for answers on how to inspire, motivate, and help people trying to find their true purpose in life. And the fact that you have a dog who found its true purpose in life, there's a lot of people in their 80s that still haven't probably found their true purpose in life. But some of the conclusions, that we're here to have fun, we're here to save others, we're finding somebody to be with, not getting upset over the past or the future. That's a big one, right? That's a tough
Yeah.
one, not getting upset over the past or the future. But what a lesson it is. And the other one, living for today. So many of us are so stuck in the past. So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, dogs are here for a very short period of time, and people very often ask me what I think about that. And my response is, well, we humans are actually here for a very short period of time. And a dog lives each moment like it's the greatest treasure.
Isn't that true?
And whether they're taking a nap or a car ride, whether they're eating or they're swimming, they think every moment is full of joy. I think we should try to live more like the dogs. I think that finding joy in what you are doing instead of expecting what you are doing to bring you joy will change your life. It's transformative. So for me, studying how a dog regards the world with their very short lifespan, it's very clear to me they are here to teach us a lesson. Otherwise, they'd live as long as we do. Why not? But there's a reason why we lose them, and it's to teach us about love and teach us about acceptance and teach us about rebirth and teach us about finding new love. And all these lessons that a dog can teach us if we'll just pay attention to them really resonate with me. And it's one of the main reasons why I wrote A Dog's Purpose.
Well, dogs aren't thinking about a year from now, and then they'll be happy after they complete the project. Dogs are just happy for the simple things in life, right? You put a little
Right?
bowl of water and food in front of them. You play with them a little bit. They don't have huge requirements. They're just
No.
happy for the small things. And maybe that's a lesson that humans should adopt.
I absolutely believe that we should embrace that. We should embrace the now, and the future's things are going to happen in the future that are not good. Things are going to happen that are great, and we can choose what to dwell on. And the people I know who spend all their time upset about things, constantly talking about what is wrong in the world, I don't see them being happier for having done that. I really don't. On the other hand, what I see is that when people embrace their inner dog and find joy in whatever they are doing, slow down and enjoy a meal instead of grabbing a sandwich and eating it while you drive, or if you have to do that, enjoy the sandwich while you drive. I mean, I think that you can make this as granular as you want, but all the way down to the molecular level, if you can find joy in what you're doing, your life will be completely different.
Yeah, when my big clumsy foot steps on my dog's paw, uh, 10 minutes later, it's pretty much forgotten. There's no grudges held.
Right.
And it's kind of a great lesson for humanity, because we're so
Yeah.
stuck in small things that we think that other people have done or said, and we hold it forever. Even family members, we don't talk to a family member for 5, 10 years because they said something in a certain way and it got us all crazy. And, look at dogs, right? They're just not holding
Yeah.
grudges. Just
It
give them a
just
bone again and play with them again. It's like, okay, daddy, you're forgotten. It's all forgotten.
right. You're exactly.
Great lessons. How long did it take to write A Dog's Journey, A Dog's Purpose?
A Dog's Purpose was harder to write than you'd think. In fact, I've had so many people say, well, you wrote it from a point of view of a dog. That's pretty easy. I said, okay, try it, because here's a dog that's limited. A dog is limited to what, 200 words. The smart ones. I've had dogs that I think 20 words was they maxed out. But the larger point is that you can't write a book from the point of view of a creature that only understands 200 words. That's not a book. So your first challenge is understanding how are you going to present information, but it still has to sound like it's coming from a dog. This is a dog telling the story. It's not that easy to do, and I make mistakes to this day. Very often, I'll catch myself and I will have said something like, "The dog decided to wait a minute." I'm like, A dog doesn't know what a minute is. How did I make that mistake? It, I ran into problems. I thought, well, a dog must think metaphorically. A dog must think, well, this is like this. But but the dog can only relate to things that they've seen. So you can't say, well, a dog comes to a road and thinks, oh, it's a river made of cement. That's the first time I stumbled was with that. I thought this dog hasn't, we've not established that it even knows what a river is. This may look like a river to us, but to a dog, it doesn't smell like a river. It doesn't behave like, it's not a river. It's something completely different. What is it? I really got stuck. So it took me more than a year to write A Dog's Purpose just because of that, just because of how hard it was to wrench my brain around to an animal who perceives the world through smell instead of sight, and who can hear so much more accurately. And then what is your dog thinking at any given moment? That was all really difficult stuff to come up with. Didn't really have any other books I could read that would give me a model for it. So after that, I mean, I've been writing a long enough and professionally enough. A book takes me about 9 months to write now. I've had books that have taken me years, but 9 months seems to be about the average.
So in the movie, Dennis Quaid plays Ethan, who was the dog's original owner. And unfortunately, the dog passes on, and Ethan is kind of a sad sack character. You know, he's got problems with alcohol and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then the dog goes through different incarnations, and then he finally, Ethan gets to reunite with Bailey, and Bailey shows them certain things that shows, hey, you're Bailey.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable it was to Ethan. What made you think of such an ingenious sort of ending where, you know, they reunite at the end?
Well, that was the purpose of the whole journey, was for the dog to learn lessons along the way. And it's not as evident in the movie, of course, because the movie is only, 100 minutes long. But if you read the book, A Dog's Purpose, what you'll discover is that every life informed Bailey's understanding of the world more, so that at the very end, all the skills that Bailey had learned along the way were employed to help Bailey find his way back to Ethan. And that was this theme of love is eternal, it never dies, it will return to you in some form if your heart is open to that. And Ethan, when we meet him, his heart is not particularly open, but after a while, he begrudgingly decides to let this new dog, as an old grumpy man, into his life. And that's how we get this reunion.
So the book was done in 2010. The movie's done in 2017. How did the movie come about in that 7-year period?
Oh, movie making is, I say it's akin to assembling a Ferrari in the dark, especially as far as the screenwriter goes. So the woman to whom I should tell you this, the woman who was in the car with me when I talked about the story A Dog's Purpose eventually married me. I guess she liked the story a lot. So she and I are screenwriting partners, and when we got the assignment from what was then DreamWorks to write the movie, we were given a very tight deadline. In fact, we worked all through Christmas break. They had to have it completed on their desks the first Monday back to work after the holiday break. And then it went into a state of nobody knew what was going on for 7 years. And then all of a sudden, one day, we get a phone call saying, hey, good news, we've cast Dennis Quaid. So what it was like was, well, initially a burst of, staying up late and typing and ripping up paper and trying to get it all figured out, and then waiting at first patiently and then later impatiently for the movie to get made.
And how did the name Bailey come about? Did you have a dog named Bailey?
I did not have a dog named Bailey. Dog names, like my character names, just come to me. Meaning literally the character I invent first, and I have a placeholder name. And then after a while, the dog will come forward and say to me, "My name is Bailey." I know it sounds crazy, but when I invent a character, eventually they come to life just as much as my children did. And named my children kind of the same way. I looked at them and thought, well, no, I know what your name.
And so I hear there's a lot of excitement in the air because this Christmas there's another film coming out. Tell us about that. And we're
Yeah,
talking 2026 Christmas.
we're talking this year, 2026, November is the target date for a Netflix movie starring Dennis Quaid and Mary Steenburgen, directed by Catherine Michon. It is a fabulous family at Christmas having a crisis. The mother who is the person who holds the whole ship together, becomes grievously ill and has to enter the hospital. A new puppy shows up right at this time. The family's got to cope with its dysfunction, the fact that they've always relied on mom, but she's not there. The husband, the father, has a crisis at work. The grandfather, Dennis Quaid, is really grumpy and suicidal, in fact. And all of this has to change now because there's a puppy and there's a family that needs a Christmas. I would say, if you think of a typical Christmas movie as turn it on in the background and don't pay attention because there's not much going on, it's always the same movie anyway, this isn't for you. This is a movie that it reminds me mostly of It's a Wonderful Life, because there's a lot of texture here. There's a lot of detail. It's based on my book, A Dog's Perfect Christmas, and I have based a children's picture book called A Dog's Perfect Christmas based on my book, and that book will be coming out around the same time. And it's my first picture book. I've written for children extensively, but never so young. And so this is fun for me now. I'm practically catching them as soon as they're born and just ushering them all the way through their retirement with my books.
Well, I was fortunate to have Carolyn Grimes on my show, and she plays Zuzu in it. It's a Wonderful Life, because you mentioned that before. Sort of obviously
Wonderful.
The classic Christmas movie. And, you know, any movie that has a Christmas theme somehow just adds another element. What made you choose the Christmas?
Well, you look, in my business, the publisher will say, hey, why don't you do this? And I had written a very successful Christmas novella called The Dogs of Christmas. And it sold very well. And they were very intrigued by the idea that I might write another one. And when I offered up this idea, they jumped right at it. And then Netflix, when we spoke to them about it, their immediate reaction was embracive. What a title, and what an idea, and the family dynamics. And then there's some beautiful photography. We found an actor, Brooklina Johnson, who is an Olympic class ice dancer, and ice dancing is part of the story. So we've got these wonderful ice dancing scenes. We've got the grumpy old man. We've got a beautiful basset hound, and then we have a corgi puppy. It was one of the happiest sets I've ever been on. It was just such a delight to be with these wonderful actors and see them do their work. Mary Steenburgen just lights up every frame that when she's in front of the camera.
So during the movie, is there going to be a lot of tears? And what do you expect people to take away from them walking out of the theater? How are they going to feel? What's the theme?
I think they're going to be the last 5 minutes of the movie are so joyous. I think they're going to walk out with smiles on their faces. They will have been through a bit of an emotional roller coaster. But isn't that what movies should do for you? They shouldn't just deliver a one note the entire time. So I think they'll be entertained. I think they'll be enthralled with the beauty of the ice skating scenes. I just think they're going to be so charmed by these dogs. This corgi puppy learned how to skateboard. I mean, it's unreal what this dog is able to do in the movie. It's so much fun.
And where was the filming taking place? Like, where were the ice skating scenes and other scenes?
So we shot it all up in Vancouver. However, the movie itself, the book, takes place in Traverse City, Michigan, and the Traverse City connection is mentioned several times during the film. So Vancouver is sort of subbing in for Traverse City. And I lived in Traverse City for a number of years. I'm going to say that the locals will say that doesn't look very much like Traverse City. But if you've only been there to visit once or twice, you're going to say, yeah, they must have shot this in Traverse City. It looks just like that.
How long does it take to film something like this?
Well, as the screenwriter, my number one concern is where am I going to get lunch? The people who are working real hard, like the director, they're involved for more than a year. It's been pretty close to a year since we got the word that we're making this movie. And I happen to know the director's schedule because it's that same woman, Catherine Michon, and that I told the story to. She directed the movie, so I am aware of the fact that she still works every day, and I'm talking Saturdays and Sundays as well on this film. I don't work on it much anymore. There's not that much for me to do.
So you've had A Dog's Purpose. Now you have A Dog's Perfect Christmas. Is there somewhere to go after that as a sequel?
Oh, we'll see. I've certainly got a story idea in mind for a sequel. We certainly have chatted with Netflix about it a little bit. I think they want to see how the movie does before they commit anything. But I will be writing another Christmas novella. It probably will be the sequel, but I'm not sure because there's a lot going on that I would like to continue to write about. And then I'm always writing books. I've got 5 going right now, so I will always have books out there. And so whether it's a dog book specifically, like I've got a book, My 3 Dogs, that's a very specific, that's just dog, dog, dog. A Dog's Way Home was made into a movie that was huge on Netflix. It was way up in their charts for more than 10 days. And that's after it did its theatrical and a streaming run somewhere else. So these dog books, that's kind of my thing. So I don't stray too far from that always, but I do sometimes write something different.
Yeah, I don't think people can get enough of dogs. So I think you can keep writing about them and keep doing
Yeah.
films. I don't think people can get enough out of Christmas. I think you can keep writing books about Christmas, doing films about Christmas. So, I think you're on the right track there. But tell us a little bit about your experiences with a world-class actor, someone who's just so versatile like Dennis Quaid.
Well, I thought Dennis Quaid was one of the most gracious people I've ever met. I was sort of alluding to it. Screenwriters are not necessarily the most respected and valued asset on a film. We have a contractual obligation to be on set. In some movies, it's pretty necessary to do that. For me, the first couple of movies that we did, it wasn't really that necessary because we didn't really get involved. We being my writing partner, same woman, Catherine Michon, and we didn't really get involved with writing the movies once we turned in the script until it comes time. People don't know this, but when you watch a movie with a dog in it and the dog is talking, that is a script that goes under revision with every cut of the movie, and then over and over and over again, we are writing the dog dialogue to make it perfect. So the screenwriter shows up in the final part of movie making once again to get that part set exactly right. And that actually, I've been forewarned that's coming. I've already rewritten the dog VO several times, but now we're going to do one more major pass, and then we'll present that and we'll get that recorded, and that'll be the voice of the dog.
So how do you like being on those red carpets? Where's this red carpet going to be?
We've had so many crazy things happen. We had COVID, and we've had a sort of a odd relationship. I've only actually been on one studio red carpet. that was for A Dog's Way Home. It's just how it worked out. And I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fun. It's I get all dressed up in my outfit. I'm wearing a suit, and I feel a little weird doing that because I don't wear suits anymore.
Who does?
Yeah.
Right.
I worked in corporate America
Yeah.
for 20 years, and I wore a suit every day, but I don't
I
have
used
to
to
do
wear a
that.
three-piecer.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
The good old
So,
days.
so I don't know. I wouldn't, the red carpet, I wouldn't call that the high point. Here's the high point. First movie, first studio movie we made, A Dog's Purpose. Uh, Catherine and I arrived on set, and it was a night shoot. So we were being driven out into the countryside uh, in Winnipeg to uh, see this scene that was being shot at a diner. And we crested the hill, and we looked down below us at the shoot itself. And there's maybe you could visibly there's 200 people, all of them moving around, carrying things. Lights are being moved, and I realized, oh, none of those people would have a job if I hadn't written this book. And
Powerful.
that is the reward that you get. It's not the red carpet. It's the idea that you've helped so many people with your words.
You made a difference, like the
That was
dog, right? You figured out what's
right.
important in life, right? What it really stands for, the book, what the whole project, at the end of the day, what's the meaning that you can take out of it, right?
Yeah.
So anything any of us are doing in life, it's enjoy the process along the way, and what difference are we making, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. So it's such a beautiful, concept that you do with your books, and I just love that. And I'm, look, I'm going to be bringing some tissues along with me this Christmas, because I have a feeling there's going to be a few more tears in that movie.
Those allergies may come back.
Yeah, so looking forward. So, what else is going to happen after this great movie? What else would you like to share with the audience?
Oh, well, I have a book coming out in April. It seems a long way away, but it will be here before you know it. It's called The Dogs of Heaven. Back to my preference to write about spirituality, especially asking the question, are there dogs in heaven? And what does it look like when
You better
you get
be.
there? Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't want to blow it, but the title tells you, yes, there are dogs in heaven. The name of the book is The Dogs of Heaven. So I'm working on that. I've got some children's books coming out. I just have my whole life wanted to do this, to sell books. That was to write books and professionally, not so much to sell them exactly, but to be paid to do it and have that be my job and my only job. It was my hobby for the first 50 years of my life. And then I finally published that first book, 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter, New York Times bestseller. And ever since then, I've been able to make a living just by what I write.
So, Bruce, how do you get through a book? Do you have writer's block? Do you have a certain ritual that you have to do it for the first 3 hours of the morning? What is your secret sauce?
Yeah, I don't ever get writer's block. But I think the secret for me is the amount of time I spend outlining. By the time I sit down to write a story, I have it so mapped out that it's like building something from a blueprint. And obviously, you have to make changes on the fly, but for the most part, it's pretty much what I've outlined. So I don't ever have writer's block because I know what to do next. I just sit down and start typing.
Well, I've been waiting 9 years for my next fix after the A Dog's Purpose movie of 2017. So I can't wait for this Christmas to see A Dog's Perfect Christmas. Thank you so much, Bruce, for being on our show today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me today.